Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents a showcase of things likely forgotten, Cartoon Network edition. My name is Bats and I hope you'll join me today as we take a look back at all of the Cartoon Network Wedgies we discussed previously in one compact video. So without further ado, here we go. Nacho Bear. The Quests of Nacho Bear, a chip off the Wedgie. Originally, I was going to make the entire video about Cartoon Network's Wedgies until I realized Nacho Bear was not the only one. However, as far as the other ones go, I realized there was very little information on each one, so I decided to turn it into a spotlight set, and we're going to start off with Nacho Bear. But first, around 2008, Cartoon Network introduced a series of interstitial shorts called Wedgies. These Wedgies were animated shorts, each with a runtime of 1 to 3 minutes each, and they would air during, before, or after commercial breaks. There were a handful of these shorts, each with its own subject matter and characters. And at times, these characters were even known to cross over into each other's properties, but we will get to those in time. Because today, we're here to talk about Nacho Bear. In 2008, the United States Cartoon Network fans would be presented with this series of cartoons. Created by Art Roche, Nacho Bear features a bear named, well, Nacho Bear, and his friend, a green raccoon, as they embark on missions to obtain a single nacho chip. This bear really likes nachos. Most of the sites I searched for information on for Nacho Bear say there were only 7 episodes, but there were in fact 8, so let's take a look at them now, starting with episode 1, Half or Whole. This episode starts in a set of hot springs where Nacho Bear and Raccoon are walking along and discover there is a single nacho being expelled by geysers. So in something of a whack-a-mole situation, they attempt to get the coveted chip only to be shot through one of the hot springs, through the planet, all the way to Asia, where they see a panda bear and a yellow raccoon going through the same thing, only with a nacho rice cake. I didn't write it, I just talk about it. Episode 2, Batter Up. This episode shows Nacho Bear and Raccoon, and as far as I know, Raccoon does not actually have a name, so for the sake of this video, we're just gonna call him Raccoon. In this episode, Nacho Bear and Raccoon are in the forest and mountains, in what appears to be the fall season, as they are both cold and shivering, and so they notice a cave and proceed to approach. Upon nearing the cave, they hear some ominous sounds coming from within, and Nacho Bear assumes it must be a nacho chip calling to him. So he enters the cave, and when he does, he is immediately sent sliding down a slope far deep into the cave, where it eventually becomes pitch black. Upon reaching the bottom, the duo walk toward a faint light and see a single nacho on the ground, surrounded by glowing mushrooms. So naturally, Nacho Bear decides to grab the chip, and when he does, he hits his head, alerting a swarm of bats, whom happen to take the chip that is being held by Raccoon and flies out of the cave. This one ends with Nacho Bear and Raccoon landing right where they started, and the chip floating down to the bear's butt before floating away again in the wind. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up, but somebody did, and trust me, they only get weirder from here. Episode 3, Road Rubes. This episode starts with Nacho and Raccoon at a state park where the duo is rooting around through some trash to find some food. However, Nacho Bear is unimpressed by the selection, throwing each item that Raccoon produces aside with complete disinterest, until Raccoon hands him a nacho chip. That of course he also throws away, only to realize all too late exactly what he's done. Nacho Bear watches as the chip floats its way down to the road below from where they are standing, and of course traffic begins to make the chip move in and out of danger. Digging in the trash bin in a frenzy, Nacho produces a fishing pole and fishing hat, but chooses to use Raccoon as a lure and send him flying down to the road to try to catch the coveted chip. Raccoon lands on the same truck that the chip landed on, and after some cartoon hijinks, the truck is opened to reveal several bags of brand new nacho chips. But this isn't the nacho chip. And despite having a newly found hefty supply of the chips all around him, Nacho becomes saddened until he sees his chip resting on top of a cliff, and the short ends with the bear running up the cliff to get it, and I'm pretty sure you know how it ends. Episode 4, A String and a Bear. This one opens to show Nacho hanging off a cliff and eating berries from a bush that was growing out of a cliff wall, which of course he was able to do thanks to Raccoon and an intricate set of pulleys. This is when Raccoon notices a single Nacho chip on a precarious cliff overhang and drops Nacho Bear. After some more cartoon hijinks, they end up disturbing a mountain lion. I think it's a mountain lion anyways. So again, the duo attempt to get the coveted chip, and while doing so, they end up dropping rocks on the mountain lion's head until Raccoon eventually falls down like the rock, and the mountain lion pulls down Nacho as well. This short ends with Nacho and Raccoon presumably getting beat up by the mountain lion. Episode 5, A Bridge Too Dumb. This one opens with Nacho in the woods taking a nap and dreaming about surfing with his beloved chip, when all of a sudden a bird carrying a chip flies by and Nacho sniffs it out, alerting him to the cheesy goodness that just flew by. Waking up in another frenzy, he gets a large log stuck on his foot. But if you think that's gonna stop Nacho Bear, then you haven't been paying attention. He begins the chase over hills and across land until roaring so loud it causes the bird to drop the chip and fly away. The chip lands on a stick on the other side of a river, so naturally Nacho decides to cross the river using the log as a bridge. After more hijinks, a fish steals the chip, and then it's time to go surfing. Using the log as a surfboard, the fish then leads Nacho Bear to a waterfall. He goes down, getting even more trapped in the log, and the fish swims by, with the chip and kids in tow. Episode 6, Anti-Social. This is actually one of my favorite sections from any of these shorts, and although I don't speak bear and I'm not entirely sure what's going on here, Raccoon sure does seem to like it. So while performing in this show's version of Forest Idol, an ant walks by carrying a Nacho chip, and of course the performance is over. Nacho follows the chip back to an anthill where the ants have some trouble getting it into the anthill, so Nacho of course thinks this will be easy pickings. Upon trying to steal the chip from the ants, they have a little fun with him before kicking him through a tree, and then the ants try to pull the chip into the hill again, only for it to take flight and float past the now trapped Nacho Bear as the episode ends. Episode 7, Treetop Trouble. It's spring in the forest, and Nacho is sniffing out his next meal when he stumbles upon a campsite. After trying the coffee and looting a bit, as bears do, he discovers Raccoon in an ice chest with a bag of Nacho chips. He takes the bag from him and turns it upside down, dropping the bag's last chip, and of course it begins floating away, landing in a tree. Okay, so what the hell are these chips made out of? It seems like they're made out of anti-gravity materials. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. So anyway, he dons a pair of wings in an attempt to get his beloved snack. Of course this backfires and he ends up bouncing around on the treetops before landing on the same tree as the chip, which of course he loses as it floats away. And that concludes the 7 episodes they had listed on the IMDb and Wikipedia pages. But wait, didn't I say there were 8 different cartoons? There is. In fact, the 8th and final episode of this cartoon series is called The Long One. I'm guessing because unlike its counterparts, this one is about 10 minutes in length. So of course, let's check it out. Episode 8, The Long One. Before we get into this, I'm not going to dive fully into every little thing that happens because it's sort of an amalgamation of all of the episodes put together, but not really because they're all the same. This one starts with a peaceful morning in the forest where most of the animals are still asleep except for Raccoon, whom is busy starting his day with his obnoxious kids. Nacho Bear awakens from his sleepy time, and this pretty much signals the start of the day for all the woodland animals. Once again, through a series of cartoon hijinks, Nacho and Raccoon stumble across a single Nacho chip, and of course, Nacho Bear must have it. So after a fall, Nacho Bear is kind of depressed, and Raccoon tries to inspire him to go for the gold and get that chip, which is perched very, very high on a pillar-like rock. But Raccoon is determined to inspire him to go for the gold and get that chip. Next we see Nacho Bear has a new sense of determination and he gives it his all while imagining that he is much more successful than he actually is. And the normal Nacho Bear hijinks ensue. Like I said, this one primarily takes place on a pillar-like rock formation that you might remember from a couple of the other shorts, as it does play home to the mountain lion. And Nacho keeps trying to climb to the top with mixed results, but essentially it was the same as all the others, only this episode was 10 minutes long. You can find all of the Nacho Bear shorts right here on YouTube, and I'll try to put a link down in the description. But now, here's my thoughts. I thought it was a goofy, fun, nonsensical cartoon that only existed to be fun and funny. And what more could you want? Nacho Bear was a very expressive character that did most of his communicating through gestures, absurd looks, and at times, just brute force. I think the one where he's growling and Raccoon is judging him has to be my favorite, along with any of the times that he seems absolutely disinterested. I'll admit those moments really had me giving a good chuckle. The talented Mr. Bixby. The talented Mr. Bixby, except no substitutes. Like I said in the Nacho Bear spotlight, there were 5 of these, and today we're going to talk about the talented Mr. Bixby. Although for most of this video, I will be referring to him simply as Bixby. The talented Mr. Bixby was produced for Cartoon Network's Wedgies by Evan Adler and Steve Patrick. This series was set up to showcase the life of Bixby, a janitor at the Shoehorn High School, as he fills in as substitute for various jobs, only one of which in the series is even actually close to janitorial work. He is presented as an absent-minded, easily distracted, but well-meaning and kind person. Although he always tries his best, he usually only gets the worst of results. Unlike Nacho Bear, this one had more than 2 main characters, so let's take a look. Starting with the title character, Bixby was voiced by someone named DJ Solomon Grundy. That's a name. He kind of gave the character an over-the-top Bill Cosby,
which is kind of weird knowing what he did after that,
mixed with John Witherspoon's character Mr. Jones from Friday vibe. But like I said, there were a couple other characters in this show, such as, there was Amy, who was voiced by Tara Strong, and Principal Wexley and Wally, though they are uncredited as far as their voice actors. Throughout the series, Mr. Bixby fills the role of substitute exterminator, bus driver, shop teacher, career counselor, and referee. In fact, this is a spotlight, so let's take a look at the episodes now. Episode 1, Mr. Bixby as the Substitute Bugman. This one starts out with Mr. Bixby as a Spanish teacher. I would also like to point out that both Nacho Bear and Calling Cat 22 both have cameos in this one. So as Mr. Bixby is teaching Spanish, one of his students starts screaming due to a cockroach that scurried across the floor. They have a little screaming match that ends with Bixby having several bugs crawling all over him. Suddenly, Bixby is called to the principal's office where the principal reveals that in fact, it is the whole school that is infested with the bugs. Due to budget issues, Mr. Wexley tasks Bixby with exterminating the school's pest problem. What happens next is a montage of Bixby attempting to exterminate the bugs in various ways with mixed results. About this point, the principal informs Bixby the infestation has gotten so bad the kids are now being attacked by the bugs. This makes Bixby headstrong in his attempts to defeat the bugs, and in a comical set of events, he stops the infestation in his own way. Episode 2, Mr. Bixby as the substitute shop teacher. This one opens up with the principal trying to get the attention of the obnoxious class, which he does by smashing a car window. His own car window. The principal then informs the class that their regular teacher is out sick and that Mr. Bixby will be their substitute teacher for the day. Just then, Bixby crashes his van through the wall of the class. The principal then tells Bixby that the lesson plan is on the desk and to keep the kids busy doing their schoolwork. He then accidentally shoves the principal into a boiler room as all hell breaks loose. As he starts to teach the class, he notices that smoke is coming from his now crashed van and improvs a lesson to the class by asking what do they do when they see a van smoking. One of the kids then walks over to try and fix the smoking van problem, while he tells the rest of the class they need to write a paper. However, he then says they don't have to write the paper if they can obtain a bottle of blinker fluid from the auto store. Then the kids spend the rest of the episode trying to fix Bixby's van while he goofs off. The students give the van a high school student version of Pimp My Ride, and it soon catches on fire. After putting the fire out, the principal finally exits the boiler room and asks Bixby where the other students are at. Only in public school. Bixby stalls before saying that he will retrieve them and gets in his van. Only the kids have installed rocket boosters that shoot Bixby into space as the episode ends. Episode 3, Mr. Bixby as the substitute career counselor. This one opens with Bixby eating a breakfast burrito and driving like a maniac. When he runs a lady driving a moped off the road, he suddenly gets a phone call to come in and fill in for the career counselor, because she was hit by a van. And this phone call / message actually has an interesting piece of information for Bixby.
Hit by a van, need you to fill in, don't hit the kids.
He shows up at school and he already has a student waiting for him who asks where the actual counselor is. It's at this point that the cartoon confirms what happened to the actual career counselor. He then gives the kids several pieces of horrible career advice. Here's a few examples. One kid wants to be a police officer, so he tells him that he should be a horse and pony judge because being a cop is dangerous. Then another kid said she wants to be a veterinarian. However, Bixby tells her she should be a ventriloquist. It then goes through another montage of him suggesting different jobs to students like lion tamer, giant robot, weatherman, and he also throws ventriloquist out there several times until a kid that actually is a ventriloquist comes in and he says that kid should be a career counselor. I'd also like to point out that in this one as well, Nacho Bear makes another cameo as a stuffed bear in the corner of the counselor's office. The episode then ends with one of the students coming back with the police officer that asks Bixby about an accident with his van. Next up, episode 4. Mr. Bixby is the substitute bus driver. This one opens with Bixby asleep in bed, fully clothed, mind you. Bixby gets a call from Patricia, presumably the normal bus driver from the school, asking him to come fill in for her as the school has a field trip to the aquarium and it's very important to the students. As the principal is informing the students that the trip has been postponed, again, Bixby rolls up and crashes into the parked school bus and the kids are overjoyed to find out that Bixby will be filling in for the bus driver and they will in fact go on their trip after all. And just in case you weren't following along, this one also has a cameo from Nacho Bear.
Does a bear eat nachos? Now listen up, people.
I would also like to point out that despite his regular driving habits, this man should not be driving a school bus. He can't even open the door. Soon enough, they head out and one of the students points out that they are going the wrong way. Another child proves this by pointing out they're looking at a map, and Bixby goes on a small rant about maps while driving like my wife like I've done something to irritate her. To all husbands out there, my advice, do not give your partner a wet willy while they're driving. They end up traveling through a set of cartoon backdrops and settings before comedically landing the bus at the sewage treatment plant, where the kids will in fact go on a tour. And all I'm gonna say is, this one ends with a poop joke.
Mr. Bixby, what kind of fish is that?
Next up, episode 5. Mr. Bixby is the substitute referee. This one opens with a school football game that only has 4 seconds left in play. While Bixby is trying to score a deal on some cotton candy, the referee from the game is taken out by the players. So of course Bixby decides to fill in for the ref. On his way to the field, he makes a mess of a lot of things. He decides that the next team to score will win, and instead of a coin flip, Bixby first flips a dollar bill, then a bottle cap with gum in it, then eventually he writes heads and tails on the front and back of his hand to comedic effect, and eventually ruins the game, resulting in the entire audience rushing him out of the stadium and forcing him to hop in his van and drive away. Now before you guys start hitting me in the comments about the controversies that this show proposed, yes, I am aware of them. And here's the short version. This show, while highly enjoyable, had 2 prominent problems going for it. The first of which being the comparison to comedian and actor Bill Cosby for obvious reasons.
Which is kinda weird, knowing what he did after that.
And the other was the blatant racial stereotyping. As you all probably well know, we don't discuss these things here on Macabre'Gorium Labs. We try to keep it macabre and creepy, not horrible. However, I will tell you what I thought of The Talented Mr. Bixby as a series. So here's my thoughts. The Talented Mr. Bixby was not without its issues, but it was really fun and funny to watch. It felt like it had some good intentions, but in the long run, just fell short. Personally, I liked it, but I don't think that it would have made well for a full-blown series. It worked well enough as a series of shorts, but I will say they didn't make enough of them. In the end, Mr. Bixby was totally worth watching and was definitely funny and fairly well made. Big baby. What happens when you put a giant baby in situations meant for trained adults? Well, watch today's video and I guess you'll find out. The outlandish big baby. It existed. Okay, so let's just jump right into the details. Unlike other cartoons in this series, this one had a more serious art style. It had a couple of voice actors, however, Patrick Warburton was the only one that was credited. There were a total of 7 episodes for this one, so again, with such little information, let's have a look at the episodes. Episode 1, Racetrack Hero. Episode 1 opens with a race car track where an accident has just occurred. You can feel the heat of the track as the racers try and take top place, but one racer is determined to win so much that he will even cause other racers to crash. The racer team captain, I guess, expresses his over-the-top dramatic intent to win the race, and in a decision that would only happen in cartoons, he decides that the giant baby teething on a car tire would make a perfect driver. So Baby is given a helmet and sent out onto the track in the race car, and somehow, beyond the rules of physics, the baby does manage to drive the car. The other racer is up to his old tricks and tries to run the baby off the road, but Baby maintains as the race continues. The excitement is in the air when this happens.
Lost in a department store? Call us. Just dial 555-0101, pound 34, star 629847. It's as simple as that.
During that short break, it is shown that the racers collided with each other and both cars were stopped on the track. So the other racer decides to make it on foot to run to the finish line while Baby stays where he is and plays with the car tire. After noticing the shiny trophy at the finish line, Baby bounces the tire into the air and it goes flying while Baby makes his way toward his shiny prize. Then the tire lands on the other racer just in time for Baby to cross the finish line and get said prize. The short then ends with a joke about a show called Cat Patterns and the news coming up next. Let's move on. Episode 2, Bank Robbery Hero. This episode opens with a shot of the First National Bank of Centerville where we zoom in and are brought inside and introduced to some secret agent spy music. It is soon made apparent that a bank robbery is taking place. The clerks have a brief discussion about the robbery when the security guard says they don't need cops, they need a hero. The security guard says they need a hero? Whatever. Let's see where this goes. It then pans over to Big Baby, who's playing with some balloons attached to some promotional toasters. Baby then starts tossing a toaster into the air and it floats over to one of the robbers, knocking them out. Through a set of hijinks that once again you would only see in cartoons, Baby then stops the robbers by spilling a gumball machine, and then crawls next to the bad guy, and Baby then stops the robbers by spilling a gumball machine, crawls over to the next bad guy, and this happens.
Saturday, come to the swap meet. Trade beef for chicken, trade lamb for pork. It's a cornucopia of meat at the swap meet. Saturday, 8 to 5 at the Centerville Civic Center. As always, free jerky for the kids.
Baby then blows a bubble and covers the robber in bubble gum, causing him to drop his ill-gotten gains. Baby then follows the rolling coins over to the vault door where he managed to coincidentally push the vault doors closed and trapping the last robber inside. The episode then ends with the robbers having been caught and Baby being given a reward of a toaster as the whole group has a laugh. Giving a baby a toaster? I can't stand this show, but let's move on. Episode 3, Rookie Cop Hero. Episode 3 opens with the police chief talking to an officer and informing him that he needs to train the new recruit, that just happens to be Big Baby. What follows is some cop drama dialogue, and it's almost instantly obvious the actual cop is less than happy about this baby being his partner. That might be because he has A baby for a partner. God, I hate this cartoon. Then they go out on patrol, and of course, they get a report, and Baby acts more as a liability than an asset, causing the car to swerve all over the road, narrowly avoiding several obstacles. And then right at the climax, a little commercial break thingy.
Who will win the $5 jackpot tomorrow night on a brand new Pick a Hand?
When we return, about 6 seconds later, they finish driving off a broken overpass, landing on a fire truck that happens to show up at the scene they were headed to, and they realize, you know what, I'm sorry, okay, I can't. This one was bad. No matter how hard I tried, I just could not get through this entire series, let alone this episode. So, let's just summarize. Here's the last 4 episodes. Episode 4, Fireman Hero. In this one, Baby acts as a fireman. Episode 5, Bounty Hunter Hero. In this one, Baby hunts down a man as a bounty hunter. Episode 6, Basketball Hero. Baby plays in a professional basketball game. And finally, Episode 7, Airplane Hero. In this one, Baby's forced to fly an airplane because apparently no one else on the airplane can. Before I give you my thoughts, let me give this a try. I'm going to ask my fans and my audience to convince me that this one was actually good without making me dislike it even more. Let's discuss it in the comments. And remember, we're all here to have a good time. But, here's my thoughts. This one was bad, and somehow got a 7.2 on IMDb. I just don't get it. It wasn't fun or funny, and the best parts were the faux commercial break. I tried several times to get through these, and they just did not appeal to me at all. The Bremen Avenue Experience. We all know the story. You're one of 4 teens that want to start a band, and you all get together and start to churn out some musical hits, only for life problems to get in the way of progress. Just when you think you've solved your issue and are ready to rock, one of your bandmates has issues of their own to deal with. The Bremen Avenue Experience, Rock and Roll Animal Party. Nearing the end of my spotlights on Wedgies, let's take a look at the Bremen Avenue Experience, or BAE. Let's start by taking a look at what this show was all about. The BAE was about 4 teenagers that formed a band and want to rock out. There really isn't any more to it than that, except for the fact that the teenagers are a rooster, a dog, a cat, and a pig. These shorts did utilize an interesting color scheme and a unique art style that I actually really liked. However, before we get into the research I did, back when I posted my Nacho Bear video, one commenter gave me some information about this one, so let's take a look at it now. According to Shauna7117, the BAE is based on a German folktale called the Bremen Avenue Musicians, and in the episode titled Simon's Story, the phrase "Today I am a man" is a bar mitzvah speech in Hebrew tradition. In the episode titled Barrett's Story, they make different references to British media while singing the song London Town. I hope these facts are helpful enough for your next video about this Wedgie short. Well, Shauna7117, they are. And while I can confirm that this series was based on a German folktale, it was only loosely based on the German folktale, and as far as the references, we'll be talking about those a little bit later in the video. But now, let's take a look at the characters. First up, we have Simon. Simon is an orange teenage dog boy that acts as the lead guitarist and vocals for the band. Simon was voiced by none other than the legendary Carlos. I'm not going to try to pronounce this because I want to be respectful. Simon is very enthusiastic and always looking to push limits. Next up is Jessica. Jessica is a purple teenage cat girl and acts as the band's bassist. She was voiced by... Holy crap, how did I not notice this before? Jessica was voiced by Jennifer Hale. She's a typical teenage girl who seems to have a problem putting down the phone and focusing on the band. Next up is Tanner. Tanner is a yellow rooster that acts as the band's drummer, and he was voiced by none other than Tom Kenny. Tanner is sort of absent-minded and loses focus easily, not to mention he didn't realize Jessica was a girl until Jessica's story.
Jessica, you're a girl. Well, maybe.
And finally, we have Barrett. Barrett is a blue pig that acts as the band's keyboardist and vocalist. He was voiced by... Wait, what? He was voiced by D. Bradley Baker. This show truly had an all-star cast. Wow, okay. Barrett is sort of whiny and somehow is the only member that takes the band seriously. Although his British accent leaves much to be desired. You'll see in a minute. With all these wacky characters, I'm sure this show had to be interesting. So now let's take a look at the episodes. Episode number 1, Introducing the Bremen Avenue Experience. The introduction episode opens with the band logo and a bass guitar riff that segues into the characters getting ready for band practice while Simon is messing around with some kind of equipment. When all of a sudden the bassist Jessica asks Simon what he is doing, he states the band needs some flash in their act. At this point it is made perfectly clear by the other bandmates that Simon is going over the top and they should just let the music speak for itself. They then reflect on some mishap memories of Jessica's birthday when Simon reminds her that he bought her, quote, the finest fireworks assortment that money could buy. To which she says she remembers him using said fireworks to burn down her dollhouse right after she opened it. Simon then explains that he has rigged the fireworks to a control panel that he can set off at will. What could possibly go wrong? After a very short argument, the band agrees to just play anyways, and then shortly after the band starts their song, Simon presses the first button and Tanner's drumsticks start to spark up. Jessica admits that that is pretty cool, and Simon decides to press the second button, making a pinwheel firework light up and spin on Barrett's keyboard. As Simon is about to fire up Jessica's button, Tanner says that his drumsticks are getting hot due to the fireworks, and in an attempt to try and assist him, Simon trips over some cords and falls over, dropping his remote console in the process, and of course it hits the ground and breaks. But the band played on. Suddenly fireworks began rocketing all around the room, and Simon says he has the situation under control. But the band played on. Eventually the fireworks cause a marlin on the wall to detach and swing into Barrett's, well, you see it. And after the smoke clears, we see the group lying on the floor and battered, as Simon states that aside from working out a few kinks, he feels good about it. And then the short ends with Barrett stating, never again. Episode 2, Simon's Story. This episode opens the same as the first, and then we see the band jamming out when Barrett interrupts the song, saying that they need to keep better rhythm. Simon and Jessica say they want to try new things, but Barrett wants to keep performing the same song until they find their sound, and they argue for a minute. It's about this time that Tanner, like most drummers, just starts wailing on the drums out of nowhere, and they stop him, and he randomly asks if anyone else was hungry. Having had enough of the distractions, Barrett says they need to get serious, and so they agree, and Tanner starts with a 3 count, and they all start playing out of sync. So again, Barrett stops the song, and again, like most drummers, Tanner just gets up and walks away. They ask what he's doing, and he says, I thought we were taking a break. They get him back to the drums, and once again they start playing, and once again Barrett stops the session, and they all begin arguing again. The argument gets fairly heated, and they all feverishly jam, and somehow it works out. Simon tells Barrett that that was a well-played move, and the episode ends with Tanner asking if anyone has seen his sandwich, like most drummers. Episode 3, Jessica's Story. This episode opens the same as the first and second, and then we see the band jamming out, when suddenly Jessica's cell phone starts ringing and interrupting their band practice. What happens next, I'm fairly sure, can only be understood by people that either are, were, or have been around a teenage girl, because it's this.
No way. Seriously? I can't believe it. He totally deserved it. Are you calling him back? Who else did you call? Are you calling Angie? Call Angie and then call me back and tell me what she said, and if he calls back, don't take it and don't call him back. Okay, call me back.
The guys express confusion over what she said on the phone, and then Tanner, like most drummers, has the realization that Jessica is in fact a girl. So they go back to playing again, and her phone starts up again, and of course they stop again, and this time Tanner asks Simon if he knew Jessica was a girl. And eventually, the band plays on, and all of their phones start ringing at the same time, so they just use them in the song. This episode ends with Tanner remarking again that Jessica is a girl. Episode 4, Tanner's Story. After the same opening we've already seen 3 times, we see the band sitting down and discussing different theatrics when Tanner's dad enters the room and brings in some snack. While Tanner is being embarrassed, parents, am I right? Tanner's dad explains that he brought them ants on a log, and then explains what they are, much to the horror of Tanner. And for those of you who somehow don't know, ants on a log is peanut butter and celery with raisins on it. Look it up. While trying to usher his dad out of the room, Tanner's dad is being nothing less than supportive, and eventually finds a second to tell the group that he used to be a roadie for the Greats. This causes the whole group, sans Tanner, to just stare in awe for a second before Tanner reveals that his dad never told him about it. So Tanner's dad goes on to tell them all about it. And after reliving the memories of times past, Pete... Oh, yeah, it's revealed during this story that Tanner's dad's name is Pete. Pete explains that just once he would have liked to have been on stage like a real rocker. This causes Tanner to reflect and thank his dad for the ants on a log, and then invite him to fill in and play the drums for the band. And with that, he gets his chance to rock out, ending this one on a heartfelt note. Episode 5, Barrett's Story. Okay, same opening, and once again, the band is trying to practice, and once again, Barrett is acting like Sheldon.
In that case, may I offer 27 little tweaks to make it slightly less embarrassing?
They spend a few minutes arguing, and then they ask Barrett what the song he wants to play sounds like, and he starts playing some slow, ballady garbage, and singing in the worst British accent I have ever heard. Thankfully, the band also agrees with me, and they call him out for his horrible accent. And he defends himself by saying that a lot of successful bands come from England, to which Tanner says,
English guys don't sing with that accent.
After they bicker, they decide to fuse all of their styles together, and we actually get to hear a full song from this series. And because, well, YouTube, unfortunately I can't play it here. But what I can do is post the link to it down in the description below. On that note, I will mention that this music video actually does have a ton of references. See, I told you Shauna7117, we'd get there. So, here's a few of those aforementioned references. You can see Doctor Who's TARDIS, and a Dalek, Harry Potter, Wallace and Gromit, and Monty Python references. However, what are some of the references I didn't mention? After the song stops, the episode ends with Tanner offering an irritated Barrett a crumpet as it closes. This series would run alongside 4 other Cartoon Network Wedgies and remains a fan favorite to this day. It followed the same air times as they did and stopped when they did. In fact, you can find all 5 of the Bremen Avenue Experience shorts right here on YouTube, and I will link all 5 of them down in the description below. But here's my thoughts. With an all-star cast, a heartfelt history, and fun, pointless stories, this one was perfect for what it was. Although the music wasn't really my style. I actually really enjoyed this series. The art was well done, the VO was spot on, and the jokes and references were fun, and the characters were mostly likable. I can see why this one was still a fan favorite today. Calling Cat 22. What's up, Chief?
Bats, the sustainability of our channel is being compromised. We don't think it's going to survive much longer unless we act fast.
Alright, Chief, what's my objective?
Your mission is to infiltrate the Cartoon Network Wedgies one last time and gain intel on the subject, calling Cat 22.
Fascinating.
It has come to our attention that the topic has been long overdue, and you're needed in the field to find out anything you can and report back to headquarters. Only then will we be able to put an end to this set of spotlights and return to the elements of the channel that make it unique. You need to get going, Bats. The audience is growing more restless by the minute.
Understood. I'll do my best.
Yeah, about that. You need to do a better job. Remember, you aren't the only agent in the field, so you better stand out this time.
What do you think I'm trying to do here? Isn't that why we made this goofy, weird, wacky introduction in the first place?
Well, good luck. We'll be watching. And Bats.
Yeah, Chief?
Don't to bed this time.
This message will self-destruct in 5, 4, 3, 2...
Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, Cartoon Network Edition Spotlights. My name is Bats and I'll be your guide today as we discuss today's topic, Calling Cat 22. What do dogs do? Oh, Calling Cat 22, the last of the Cartoon Network Wedgies. This cartoon, released alongside all the other Wedgies. Calling Cat 22 was made using, I assume, early Flash animation and has a fairly good style. Created by Matthew Schwartz, the series itself was about a secret agent named 22. A secret agent that works in some kind of agency that wants to gather intel on dogs. Within each episode, 22 is called upon to infiltrate and gain information on the weird things that dogs do. Dog do. These missions take him all around the world, but what gets me is if each episode takes place in a different location, how come the dog he gets his intel from is always in the same location as he is? Maybe 22 is following that dog around the world? Let me know what you think in the comments section. But this series also had an interesting thing about its voice actors, so let's take a look now. First up is Gato Primo. Gato Primo is the de facto leader of the agency that sends 22 on these missions. He is the one that calls 22 and delivers the briefings. Voiced by Garrett Fisher, this black cat can be seen on screen wearing a fancy suit and showing signs of sophistication. He's also responsible for extracting 22 from his missions, the methods of which usually cause 22 great harm. Next up is Guthrie the dog. Guthrie is 22's main source of information and is always seen as 22's infiltration contact. This goofy guy was voiced by David Marcus. This brownish-orange dog with an underbite can be seen in a blue shirt and a collar with dog tags, signaling that he's probably someone's pet. He has an innocent demeanor and just likes to have a good time. Next on the list is Percy the dog. Percy the bulldog was also voiced by David Marcus and acts something as an antagonist in the series. He can often be seen alongside Guthrie and is pretty much a bully, as evidenced by one of my favorite scenes in the following clip.
I believe that was my bone that you... Ow.
And finally, we have Cat 22 himself. As the main character of the series, 22 is a secret agent that is out to get the dirt on why dogs do dog stuff. From hiding bones to sniffing booty, this cat is on the case. And of course, 22 was voiced by... well, this is weird. No matter where I looked, I could not find a voice actor for the main character. And, of course, nobody at Warner would email me back. I guess we better move on to the episodes. While I do not know the exact order these episodes go in, we will use the list from the fandom to go through them. First up, Hydrant. This episode opens with 22 playing golf in what I assume to be Ireland when he is interrupted by his boss and a litany of sound effects that are quite jarring. And then we get the theme song, and then we're taken inside a doghouse where 22 is given his mission briefing. Okay, so I'm actually pretty familiar with this set of Wedgies, and these stories are pretty freaking funny. Just wait. So 22 is told there's a mysterious device that seems to attract dogs, and the agency wants to know why. The device, of course, being a fire hydrant. And apparently the cats find this fascinating, and in the trope used by these type of things, his briefcase self-destructs soon after he sets out on his new mission. 22 dons a dog-ear hat and tries to gain intel on the strange device by telling a dog that he really could use one of those. Then 22 is surprised to see what the dog actually does, exclaiming,
That was not what I expected.
22 then decides to use a wrench on the hydrant, while a line of, well, dogs that have to pee line up, and one asks him if he wants to be shown how to use it. He pops the seal and is sprayed across the street where a water tower falls, soaking 22 even more. So the agency says it's time to pull him out and they perform an extraction. The episode wraps up with 22 in the hospital and the agency saying that they will have him back to work in no time, so he jumps out the window and dangles there as the episode ends. Episode 2, Bones. This episode appears to open in Egypt. Same opening as the rest, and 22 is given his mission briefing, and this time the agency wants to know why dogs bury their bones. Afterwards, the briefcase self-destructs and 22 is off. He dons his dog ear hat and asks his dog informant, I'm guessing he's his informant, he appears a lot, and asks him why he's burying the bone that he has, and the dog says,
"'Cause it tastes good?"
Right.
and that they bury them so no one else will eat them. So 22 decides to try and bury the bone anyway. However, Being a cat and not a dog makes the task of digging a large hole rather difficult, so he decides to set the bone down and go grab a shovel. And when he returns, another dog has claimed the bone, and this happens.
I believe that was my bone that you... Ow.
After 22 hits the ground, the agency sends in the rescue force using a giant yarn ball to roll over 22 and pick him up. After it rolls around for a while, the episode ends with 22 in the hospital on bed rest and finally catching a break. Episode 3, Flying Discs. This episode, I assume, opens in Paris. After the opening, we see 22 as being given his mission: discover why dogs are obsessed with flying discs. 22 chews on a flying disc for a second and the briefing ends, and after it blows up, he's on his way. He once again meets up with Guthrie, and the dog is instantly fixated on the flying disc, totally ignoring 22. All of a sudden, a different flying disc flies by, and Guthrie is off, bounding through the air and catches it mid-flight. When Guthrie returns with the disc, he tells 22 that it's his turn. Oh, this part makes my teeth hurt. 22 tries to catch it multiple times, each time resulting in a mishap until he gives up and returns to Guthrie. Only it turns out he actually did catch it as he coughs up the disc and passes out, prompting the rescue team to extract him. This episode ends with 22 recuperating in a liquid chamber where he will be for about 6 weeks. But not our cat 22. He quickly climbs out of the chamber and leaps out the window to freedom. Next episode. Episode 4, Stink. This one opens in what I assume to be Italy. 22 is given his mission, and this time they want to know why dogs roll around in garbage and cover up their smell. 22 finds Guthrie, and he's rolling around some green thing which 22 finds very gross. Guthrie asks why 22 is not doing the same thing, and 22 seeks out something gross to roll around in. He settles for the very first thing he sees that happens to be a toxic pond, and after a quick dip he returns to Guthrie, only now he's dirty as hell and glowing. Shortly after this, his face falls off. And on a side note, that is not a sentence I actually thought I would ever really write. So of course the rescue team goes into action and pulls 22 out of the situation by simple van abduction, and they even go back for his face. This one wraps up with 22 in the hospital having his face sewn on, only it's upside down. The episode black rings out and it ends. And the final episode, episode 5, Sniff. This one seems to open in some sort of European or German area. After the intro, 22 is presented with his mission, and this time he needs to infiltrate and find out why dogs sniff each other's butts. Yes, this is an actual storyline. I would say you can't make this stuff up, but clearly somebody did. All the cats know is that it's some kind of greeting, but they have no idea what it means. 22 gets a little invested in what he's seeing. What he's looking at is an animatic of dogs sniffing butt. 22 meets up with Guthrie and Percy sniffs 22's butt. It startles 22, and his dog ears pop off, outing him for being a cat, and Percy says,
Your butt smells like tuna.
Seeing that he has been outed, the agency sends a rocket to rescue 22 that flies around, and the dogs say this.
Wanna go eat some poop? Okay.
Then the episode ends with 22 swimming away after leaving and telling the agency to leave him alone. There were only 5 episodes of Calling Cat 22, but just like the rest of the Cartoon Network Wedgies, you can find them all right here on YouTube. I actually really liked this one, and not only do I remember it rather well, I actually had a really good time writing this episode. Each episode of Cat 22 was not just enjoyable, but I genuinely laughed with each one. The jokes were spot on and the animation just worked. I feel as if animals were anthropomorphic like the ones in this show. It probably isn't far from what actually happened. And I do have to mention that although the locations were different in each episode, they seem to not actually play a role in the stories whatsoever. I personally really can't see why this one wasn't continued. It was a really fun watch. And with that, unfortunately, we've come to the end of another Macabre'Gorium Labs Cartoon Network Edition filler video. My name is Bats, and I hope you had a good time today as we took a look back at all the times our channel has discussed the Cartoon Network Wedgies. Be sure to check back next time because you never know what we have in store. And as usual, think for yourselves, be excellent to each other, and of course, keep it creepy.
That was not what I expected.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff.
We have some pretty cool stuff coming up, but I know we say that a lot, but we really do, so you might want to stick around for that. And while we're here and wrapping up, we just want to give a shout out to our patrons, Corey Backus, Viking Woman, Boss Mike, Woodstock, Bill, Matt H, and Joshua R. Thank you all for your support. You guys freaking rock. Be sure to check out these linked videos for another one of our awesome works or a video from our partner channel, Bats from the Grave. We'll see you in the next one. Keep it creepy.